here today to talk about a how to get company sponsorships for travel and how to get that reduced cost to free, which is what we're all hoping for here. So I would like to have our guests introduce themselves who are going to be talking about their own experiences with funding their own travel experiences. So Anita, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you, Tara, so much for having me and for organizing. This is amazing and for everyone. I'm a life coach, a speaker, and a mentor, and I am here today because I spent all of my time in most of my years in university landing all kinds of paid internships and travel gigs, so that I got to travel to 21 countries by the time I graduated, all over Europe, Africa, and Asia, and I've got a ton of experience reaching out to companies that you want to work with or collaborate with, and then, getting them on board with your vision and your plan and your dreams.
Woo! Michael, would you like to go up next?
Sure, it's hard to follow that one. My name is Michael. I am Polish-born, East Coast raised, and until recently Asia-based. And most of that time was spent working on startups, consulting for companies, or doing some writing on my own. And during this entire time, for about almost 3.5 years now, until recently, I lived out of a backpack with about 150 items, moved around every few weeks, and did most of it, if possible, for free. I'll talk a bit about how I did that, but now, from having gained a lot of experience, I have a role where that has become my competitive advantage. I travel a fair bit for work. I am needed to leave at a moment's notice, so I have a bag ready and packable within a few hours. And the freedom that that has created, as well as the perspectives that creates, is amazing. So I think Anita, Tara, and I have gained a lot from the travel, besides just tricks of the trade. So we'll hope to share some of that sort of learning with you.
Yes, thank you for that, Michael. I totally agree. There is so much to be gained from travel, not just from, going to conferences and doing all that fun stuff, but also to go and like stretch your comfort zone. And as Anita would say, be fearless. She's going to talk about that a little later. So along with this, there's a document, a PDF, that will go over an action checklist of what we're going to talk about. But before that, we're going to talk about our own experiences with funding our travel. So I would like Michael to go first with something called travel hacking. So travel hacking is often used with a credit card, and it helps you bypass what would otherwise be a huge ticket price on the flight. I'm going to let Michael talk about that now.
Cool. So I'll try to keep this, I can go on and on about this. I've given this talk a few times. But there's sort of the brief and condensed version. And usually one of the best ways to start this is to think about any place you'd like to go in the world. Keep that image in your mind and sort of keep it still. Imagine if it's sandy shores, or a tropical rainforest, or maybe the beautiful architecture of, say, Budapest or something like that. And then to imagine, what if you could get there for free? That is effectively the proposition of travel hacking. It combines the systems of the way credit cards work with the travel system, as well as the redemption of special offers through what's called manufactured spend, to take advantage of deals offered primarily to very specific subject of the audience, of credit card holders, to take advantage of really good deals. So I think before we begin, one of the things we really need to dig into is what your credit score is comprised of. And this is important because when I begin talking about credit cards, the first thing I'm asked is, this is going to make my credit score tank. I want to first get into that a little bit just to make sure that's not the case. So what I think is important here is to just go over some of those basics. So the first thing and the most important thing of having a credit card, of building your credit, even if you're young, you're starting now, one of the best things your parents could have possibly done for you is to have gotten a credit card under your name, even if you hadn't used it. Some of us will be lucky in that way, and many of us will probably be just starting out. So in the early days, I'll leave it up to Q&A to talk about how we might be able to raise our credit score if we're just starting out. But I'll assume right now that you've got maybe about a year, 2 years of credit history. You've had maybe about one credit card or so to date. You've been paying all your purchases on time, and if you've done that, your credit score should be about a good number, and you'll be able to get any of the credit cards I'm talking about, even if the amount of spending you can do on it is just $1,000. That's all you really need. So the first thing that comprises a credit score is your payment history. And so 35% of your entire credit score is based on that. So even if you have only had one credit card, you're just getting started, if you've been paying stuff on time, and especially if you pay stuff on time after we get into this strategy, your credit score will go up dramatically. It'll go up exponentially, better than someone who's using their credit in a regular way. Someone who's just, putting some payments down on the card, maybe eventually asking to buy a house, asking to buy a car. Your credit score will go up exponentially faster than they will. The next big thing is credit utilization, which is it's a very complex little ratio of how much credit you can have to use and how much you are using. So if you, say, for example, have 20 grand on credit you can use, and you use 2, your ratio is really good. You're only using 10% of your available credit score, your available credit. That makes your credit score really good. And if you keep that trend up, then you're doing great. Fun fact, the more credit cards you have, the larger your total available pool of credit. What that means is literally your credit score, again, will go up higher if you follow the strategy. The next thing
Can you
is...
talk a little bit about canceling cards, though?
Oh,
I've always personally wondered about that, so like going through credit cards.
There's a helpful graph that compares how the average credit score works and then how the score of a travel hacker works. So I'm just going to draw this up real fast. And we'll go ahead and do a little example here. So I'm using a pen and paper here, so apologize for the unpreparedness here. On average, your credit score goes up like this. It's a slow and steady climb. As you get up into your 30s, you're looking to buy a house right here, you're looking to buy a car, and this trend will continue as you build a pretty good sort of basis for things. But what a travel hacker does, now going to some of the sort of broad picture stuff, is we hold many credit cards. I'm going to block out the card number on some of mine as I show them on the screen. Right now I'm carrying 7 credit cards. So thankfully this one doesn't have a credit card number. I use this one to fly American Air, and I got a trip for free to the East Coast from San Francisco. This is my first one ever. I went from Shanghai to Hong Kong to Malaysia to Bali back to Hong Kong for $62, booked a week in advance, and taught my friend to do the same. This is the Venture card. We actually had a really fun trip recently. We went to Iceland. I booked the entire $5,000 house on this card, so I only needed one purchase, and then called Venture right back and say, okay, I noticed I made this charge. I know you've just given me a great deal of points. I'd like you to use all the points to compensate me for that house. Ended up saving 15% on that entire purchase, and this was crowdfunded. I also use a Charles Schwab card for ATM withdrawals, but obviously I'm not going to keep all these cards at all times. I'm going to take them out and I'm going to cancel them in about 10 months. So as I do this, as I request new cards, and then subsequently as I cancel them, my credit score goes like this one here. Again, for comparison, this one goes up slowly and surely. This one goes up quickly and dramatically with dips. Right? So I'm comfortable saying now that my credit score is over 740. So that's pretty good. And this is after having opened about 18 credit cards and closed 6 in the span of about a year and a half. So the reason why you have those dips is because every time you request a new credit card and every time you close a credit card, your credit card dips a little bit. But when you use credit cards the way I do, and the way many of the travel hacking community does, your overall spend as well as your overall credit history goes up dramatically faster and higher. So what you might do is, as you go through a credit card, like the Venture card, you might gain 20 points on your credit history, and you might lose 4. Overall, it's a net gain. So with that, we've kind of gone over the basics of how travel works. Just very quick tips. Whenever you apply for credit cards, always apply for multiple at the same time. Never space them out. And then also, if you're going to cancel them about as late as possible into the game. So about 9, 10 months, 11 months out before you have to pay the annual fee. So let's go talk about travel hacking very broadly. Again, the way that this works is in 3 steps. You get a cool credit card. I personally recommend starting off the Barclay Arrival Plus card. This is mine. One of my favorites, and has a 24-hour concierge, so you can call them anytime. If you need a hotel booking at midnight, if you need to know where the closest beach is to you. One of my favorite things is when I get into a new place, I ask them what the closest 5 gyms are, and then I give them enough information for them to request a trial pass to each of those 5 gyms for me. So you can really kind of have a little bit of fun with it. And that ends up being a free for the month. You sign up for this card. The card offers you about, let's say, 40,000 miles in travel bonuses. Now, don't think of this as taking advantage of the card. You sign up for the bonus. You spend the next 3 months making purchases on that card, all of them, if you can. You transition everything you make and purchase onto that card. And then by the end of 3 months, that travel bonus goes into your account. You use that travel bonus to book flights to anywhere you care to, and you can keep it for a while. And then you do this again with multiple cards. So by the end of this, I've already accrued about 250,000 travel points and used them to get on a whole bunch of flights, many of them for free, and at least one of them in first class. There's a hack for that too. So I'm going to go through a single example that I've already done and that you can do today, and that will be the Barclay Arrival Plus card. So as you're watching this, Tara has already sent out or will send out a quick document that has the exact details to this from a blog post I wrote, so you have the actual step-by-step. So don't bother by taking notes. Just think about sort of what we're doing here, and then when you want to follow along and do this on your own card, you can go ahead and I would start with the Barclay Arrival Plus card. What is this? Why do I recommend this card? Great customer service. It has a chip, so you can use it anywhere in the world. It has no fees on purchases made abroad, so you won't have to worry about that. 24-hour concierge, really tight. And the biggest thing of all, I think, is the travel bonus is really great and really easy to use. So there's 2 kinds of bonuses when you get a whole bunch of points into your account. The first one is it's a bonus that comes in terms of miles. And when you get a miles bonus, you'll go up onto the credit card website, or you'll go onto the travel company website, and you'll book your flight through there, which is usually not as good as booking it through Skyscanner, which I heavily recommend for booking your flights. We'll get into that at the end.
It's also in the PDF, just for everyone who follows along in it.
Yeah, and then this is much better because literally when you book your travel through any medium you care to, whether you're buying subway cards, you're buying an Uber, you're getting a hotel, you are booking flights, you are, I don't know, getting a ferry trip across the bay, you can call your credit card company up and say, this was part of my travel expenses. And they say, that's great. Would you like to expense this with your points? Consider that each point is equal to about a penny. When you get a $40,000 sign-on bonus from a card, you're effectively getting $400, sometimes $450 for free flights. So let's dig into that. The Barclay card gives you $400, $420 or so, $423 for free travel after 3 months. And it allows you to expense things rather than use their points, which is always an advantage because you don't have to worry about where you're booking. And the last thing that's really good about this card is that points don't expire, so also really great. So Tara will show you how to apply for this card. It's in the PDF, but effectively anyone that's had a history of over 2 years is eligible. This is not something where it's VIP, you have to have had a well-paying job. I have a friend who was literally making no money. She was a student when she applied. She had about 1 year and 3 months of travel of credit history. She hadn't made any major purchases. Her family was okay. They had a house, so that was probably helpful. And she was an American citizen. This works for, by the way, this works for primarily Europeans. Also works in Australia and works in Canada really well. But it works anywhere where there are travel credit cards. So she actually got this credit card for $1,000 cap. So she couldn't spend much, but she could spend just enough to get that travel bonus. In 3 months, she had reserved a trip to Bali, and now can fly there for free. One moment. You want me to ask? Cool. All right. So The actual travel from there is just a matter of booking through Skyscanner once you've made that $3,000 purchase. We'll talk about how to do that, and then calling your card back and say, I'd like to have this for free. So the thing that you're now wondering is, how do I spend $3,000? And they're just going to give me 3 simple tips. And from there, I'll talk about some key points, and then I won't go too deep into them, and then I'll open up to Anita and some other questions later. So I'll try to wrap this up by saying what you can do is transition everything you spend onto that card. You'll probably end up buying groceries. You can get your payments to, let's say, a colleague for something, whatever you're purchasing in stores, and let's say that racks you up to about $400 that month. Let's say that's your entire spend for the month for groceries and stuff like that. So to meet the minimum spend, you still need 600 more. So I'm going to give you 3 tips that I think are really good for how to make that happen. And some of them might seem, again, a little bit kind of tricky, like it's too good to be true. But again, I want to remind you, these credit cards are making these offers for you because, firstly, most people don't take advantage of them because they can't spend that much in a month, and because you are more valuable to them as a customer than the cost of acquisition. So they think that you are worth the $450, and if you stay even for that year, they've made that $450 back. So the things that you can do with that, I'll just mention 3, but there's a whole industry around this. The first thing you can do is literally send money to your friends back and forth. You use Venmo or some other thing like that, and you'll send to your friend $600 or something. You'll pay a 3% fee, which is just going to be a few bucks at that rate, and then they'll give you that money back in cash or through their account. They pay no fee because it's coming from their bank account. So literally, you can send money back and forth on that card, and it's legit. It's great. No problem. You're hitting the requirements. The next thing you can do, but of course, you have to make sure you're paying with the card, not with your bank account. The next thing you can do is send over your rent check or auto deposit or something like that through the card itself as well, and you'll use something called the Bluebird card for that. We'll dig into that more later or do some research on your own, but basically the card allows you to charge as a credit card things for which you would otherwise need to send a written check. Pretty brilliant stuff. And the way to get it is to literally walk into a Walmart, buy yourself a Bluebird card, load it up with cash, and then make those payments on the Bluebird card. The final thing you can possibly do is to literally buy Amazon gift cards or prepaid credit card or prepaid debit cards. So I'm going to show you an example of one that I've used to sort of up my spend. This is called the Serve card. It's a blue card from American Express. It's a prepaid card. So literally, I walk into a 7-Eleven, say, I'd like to put $500 in this card. They'll say, okay, what would you like to pay with? I pay with my credit card. And now I have effectively like virtual cash in one hand and a credit card that I've fulfilled the spending requirements for in the other. So these are some great tips that I think, I went into very technical stuff here. The write-up has a little bit more of a step-by-step, but effectively you are using credit card sign-up bonuses to get points or free money for travel that you then expense your actual trip with. The trip you book through Skyscanner to get the lowest possible rate. And from there, you can also do some advanced tactics like manufactured spend. You can do point transfers into other cards. You can get, obviously, a frequent flyer number for any airline you go on and use the points together with those miles. You can buy points for really cheap. And, of course, you want to be aware of really great deal alerts, such as amazing deals from the Points Guy, with flights as cheap as $500 round trip to Hong Kong from San Francisco, or $600 from New York City, or down to Guadalajara for $218 2 weekends ago. So that's going to be it for me. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of questions later at some point, but please, if any of those questions, you can hit me up at Twitter at Gasiorek, GASIOREKM, or just post about it on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Michael. So we have a guest here, Ashley Roll, and she funded her trip to One World Summit, which is a huge global summit of gathering a ton of change makers from all over the world. I think over 120 different countries are represented there. So an amazing event, and I just wanted Ashley to share her experience of how she funded her trip across the world from the Caribbean over to where the summit was being held. And I think she's going to be doing that again this year as well. So Ashley, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I've been to the One Young World Summit about 4 times so far. One in Zurich, it would have been Zurich, Pittsburgh, South Africa, and then Ireland. And this year the summit is going to be held in Bangkok. Um, the the very first year I funded the trip, Switzerland. I was about 17 years old, and I didn't really understand what I was doing. I didn't know how to raise money, and so obviously I got the assistance of my mom, and so I sent hundreds and hundreds of letters to every company you can think of on the island, and even some companies that weren't on the island. And I've learned a lot since then, and so I think the first tip I can honestly give is to understand who you're trying to get money from. And a lot of people don't like to use the word money, but you got to be straight up. Understand who you're trying to get money from. Um, you won't you won't ask an alcohol company to sponsor an AA program. So you have to know who are you asking for funds from. Um, when you can do that, when you do that, you can more readily understand and um, take a different approach to each company that you write to. The second thing I think I'd have to say is when writing to obviously you want to know their product, but also know what you're raising money for. There's so many people every day that want to go and they want to do really amazing things, but they can't necessarily formulate what it is that they want to go out and do. Okay, so you want to go there. Why do you want to go to this place? Why is it so important that we help you to get there? Why are your dreams so important to us? So sit down and pinpoint all of the reasons as to why you want to go to this, why you want to raise money, first of all, and then really just and take it from there. Once you have a clear idea of why you're raising money, of why you're raising this money, that can definitely help you once you have a conversation. Once you start to have a conversation with people that can help you. I would then say it sounds so existential to say this, but change your mindset. A lot of people say I want to go. Change something from I want to I am doing it. For everything that I've tried to raise funds for, whether it was for One Young World or anything else, getting to Rio Plus 20 in Brazil, I always said that I will be there. People said, Ashley, are you going to be in Rio? Yeah, I'll be there. I have no money towards it. You have to change the word from I want to I am going to be there. Obviously, things happen, but once you put yourself into the mindset that you're willing to hustle, because fundraising is in fact a hustle. Once you put yourself into the mindset that you will be there, you start to think, your creative juices start to run more freely. You start to think a little more. And just if you're gonna go with I crowdsourced my last trip to Johannesburg. It's a crowdsourcing is both. There are pros and cons to crowdsourcing, just because you really have to take a look at what it is, everything that you want to do within a calendar year, and you have to say, well, how many things do I have to raise money for? How many things do I have to fundraise for? And then I don't subscribe to the fact that you should crowdsource your life, because it gets tiring after a while. The same social pool that you would have gone to a couple months before to crowdsource for something else, you have to go to that month. So kind of you have to go to that same you have to go to that same pool and then crowdsource again. So I wanna draw attention to the fact that it's important that you kind of understand that you can't always crowdsource for everything.
Okay, I understand.
Also, hello?
Oh, sorry, Michael, are you heading out? Michael, do you need to go? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I would also like to say that, like, so I'm really curious what kind of, like, what exactly, and Anita, you as well, like, what exactly was it that you both said when you wanted to get a corporate sponsorship? What value offer are you usually giving? Like, say, networking would be Anita's, or something like that. Like, did you give any work in exchange, or did you just talk about the events that you were going to, or the experience that you're going to have?
Yeah, so I want to, like, Ashley, because I know Ashley's was specifically corporate sponsorship, and
Mhm.
my best advice will be about networking in general. So I think people will want to hear both because they're both very
Yeah.
relevant. For me, it's about, like, if you just send a blanket application to someone, they're generally going to ignore it because they don't know who you are, they don't know what you stand for, they have no relationship. All of my trips have been able to be funded because I spent time getting to know companies and the people who worked at companies that I wanted to work with. So similar to what Ashley was saying about, like, you need to know who you're talking to, and you need to be very targeted to when you're talking to them. So typically, I say, like, getting people in person is best. And I know that maybe you want a specific company to sponsor you, but maybe you don't know anyone there. But as a starting point, start with all the people that you know. Like, I guarantee you're probably just, especially with the internet these days, you're only like 2 or 3 degrees away from someone at a really big company, or someone that you really want to sponsor you. So start talking to people and start putting yourself out there and just start asking. I mean, you can go the email route, and that's how I started off, just like sending people emails, being like, I love what you're doing. I feel like we have really aligned values. This is me. This is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. Obviously, if you have an online platform and you're active on social media and you have a following and that kind of stuff that you can demonstrate to a company, that's incredibly valuable because you can use that as part of your pitch in a sense, and position yourself well in all of your bios, whether you want to use LinkedIn, if you have a Facebook page, or Twitter. Make sure that all of your online properties, and if you have a website, that's even better, but make sure you have all of your online properties demonstrate who you are, what you stand for, so that if they were to click any of that, it's going to become clear to them what it is that you do and how you could potentially add value to them. So I think the first thing for me, like, I always started with developing relationships with people and then using those to get introductions to people that I wanted. So that's a matter of just, like, writing emails to people saying that, like, I love what you're doing. If, like, at this point you're already thinking of, like, contacting them for sponsorship for a trip, so you can just put that up front and say, introduce yourself in, like, 2 sentences, really short, link to whatever website or anything that you've got, and then, as Ashley was saying, or it's more in the PDF, but even before you start writing these emails, get really clear to yourself why you want to go to this trip and why you're meant to go on this trip. I think that you have to be really clear that you're going to be there, and like, to you, if you're going to put a ton of effort into finding sponsorship, this isn't just going to be yet another conference for you. Like, you need to be invested. You need to be confident in your own, what I like to say, your calling. Like, this is, like, you're meant to be there, so you are going to find the money to be there, and the right company or the right person is out there to sponsor you. Because once you've got that belief in yourself that, yeah, like, I'm meant to be here, I'm going to go, no matter what, then that's when doors will begin to open up. That's when the creative gears will start turning in your head. So once you've done that, you can write it up. I highly recommend writing it up, especially if you don't have a website. Like, create a PDF for yourself. You can do that really easily. Something that looks really nice, even on using Canva.com, and create almost like a mini press kit. And part of this is for the people you're going to approach, but a big part of it is just for you, because in the process of creating it, you need to create, like, a bio, who you are, what it is that you're doing at this conference, and then and then secondly, you're going to start getting really clear on who are the companies that you want to target. Write about them, like write sample ones to a company that you really want to work with, and write out why they should sponsor you and what you can offer them. And even just the process of creating this kind of mini pitch deck or PDF, sort of like almost like press release and a pitch thing for yourself, that process is going to be really, really valuable to you, because you're going to get the feeling that, like, in the process, you're going to build your own belief that, yeah, I'm meant to go. Yeah, there are companies that would really value from what I'm about to offer them. And then the other part of that is get really clear on what it is that you can offer companies. And so this is where there's a couple of ideas in the PDF, but a big thing here is, like, everyone listening is going to have different gifts and different skill sets, different talents. Maybe, if you've got a big online platform, you can talk about, like, I could write a series of blogs for you, or, or you could write about them and submit it to Huffington Post if you do that. Or if you've got a business, or a growing business, maybe you can create a product line, or sort of like a limited edition, a series of things that you'll sort of cross-promote them, or you'll create a promotion in your business using, like, their company name as a coupon code, or you'll list them on your website. So get creative with your particular skill set and talents and wherever you are in your life. If you're still a student, maybe you can do stuff at your campus to promote them. And so the nice thing about, or the side benefit of doing this too, is, like, you're going to start to think about, like, is this a company that you really want to approach? Because if it is, and if it's a company that you love, it's going to be easy for you to come up with ideas for how you could benefit them. Like, if you're going to promote them at your campus and you don't even believe in this company, like, chances are they probably won't believe in you and they won't want to sponsor you anyway. So I find it's better to create, like, really targeted emails, PDF pitches and that, and, like, really targeted offers, rather than sending out a ton and having just, like, people can tell when it's copy pasted. That's just, like, that's really obvious to them, especially when if you think it's something that a lot of other people would be contacting them for. So once you've got that PDF deck and, like, you feel confident in it, that's when you want to start sending it out to people. And so I would say, like, your initial emails should always be as short as possible, especially now that you've got something for them to link to and to them to check out. And the way that you go out sending this PDF to people and, like, beginning to approach them with this idea is, so I like to go from, like, the inside and the outside. So the inside is, like, everyone that you know and everyone that they know. So maybe there are people, even, like, starting with your relatives, maybe you think that like, they wouldn't sponsor you, like, they wouldn't care, whatever, but this is where you need to start, like, you've got that belief that, like, you're meant to be attending this event. Like, there are people you need to meet, there's stuff that you need to be doing, so you're going to find whatever it takes to go. So even if it's just approaching relatives, everyone has those that they can start off, and send them, like, have a generic version of your PDF that you can be like, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to go to, this is what I could potentially offer you, and even send it to them. Be like, this is the event I want to attend, and I'm looking for sponsors. I'm wondering if you know anyone who would, who would be interested in supporting a young person who's making a difference in the world. So you're not asking them specifically for that money, you're asking them if they know anyone and if they'd be willing to make introductions. And typically, like, when you do this, people are more than willing to help, because you're not asking for their money, you're asking for their connections. And when you do it from your heart, which all of this is going to come from your heart, because this is, like, this is a Changemaker event, like, there are always people who want to support young people who show that initiative and have that passion. So you ask them for the introductions, and generally, like, some of those people, maybe not everyone, but some of those are going to be like, yeah, I might know this person, like, check them out, and then ask for email introductions, or if, usually, like, if it seems like they don't want to give you email introductions, because sometimes people won't, ask for it. Like sometimes they'll be like, yeah, just check this person out on LinkedIn. Well, take that extra step and ask for it. It'll show that you're serious, and you just keep doing that. You keep doing that until you get to someone in a company that you want to work with. So that's the inside route, and the outside route is sort of when you do the cold emails. So go to companies, website that you want to work for, or organizations, and fill in their contact form. You can sort of like just see where that leads, and then you can start. Typically, you can find people who work at companies. You can find the departments, and you can find emails. So this is when you can actually start emailing people and find. Sometimes there's even like company directories. You can find specific departments and like email the people at the company. Find them on LinkedIn. See if you have mutual contacts, and eventually you will find your way into a company, into someone at a company that you want to work with. Getting warm introductions is always best because people are way more likely to ignore something that's from someone that they don't know. But if this is about persistence, as Ashley mentioned, like, there's hustle involved, but this is why you've got to believe that like you're meant to be attending this event. And when you really believe and you know that, then it's going to happen. But and the benefit of using the strategy is like you're going to expand your network like tenfold exponentially in the process, because people are going to get to know who you are. They're going to get to know what kind of projects you're working on, and they'll get a feel for you and whether or not they want to support you and help you in the process. So for me, like the way I've been able to fund all of my trips is like building these connections. And over time, it's like even if sometimes they might not fund this current one, you've expanded your network, and there might be people who help you down the road. And I found that like as long as you keep networking, you keep talking to people, you will end up getting to someone that wants to support you and help you. And that's been my experience. Like I kept showing up. I showed up to events. I kept talking to people about what I was passionate about what I was doing. And then I got to a point where I would find people who were really excited about what I was doing, and they would introduce me. There's kind of like, I think it's the 80-20 rule, right? Like 80% of the people that you, 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of the people. So once you're going to find that 20% though, and once you do, like those are the people who are going to continually open doors for you, and who are going to potentially lead to sources of funding. And so this is the other thing too. Like sometimes you'll get to people in companies who will be like, yeah, like, and it'll be perfect. They're looking for someone to sponsor. They're looking, they're innovative, and they want to try this kind of, this way of marketing themselves by sponsoring a young person. So there are times when that'll happen, and it's happened to me on some of my travel gigs and internships abroad. But then there are other times where it's not exactly the company that does it, but it's the person who has an idea for me and is like, oh, well, why don't you do this? Or actually, like, so-and-so is organizing something else, and you might be a good part of it, and that leads to something else. So for me, it's like when you start networking, you start getting clear on what it is that you're meant to be doing, and you create that PDF, and you start getting clear on how much you need and what you could offer people. You're going to come up with all kinds of creative ideas, and I've given you some now, and then when you start talking to people and you show them your ideas too, oftentimes you'll find people who will bounce back with more ideas for you, and they'll be the ones that could potentially, they'll either give you money or they'll give you like even better ideas, or maybe they'll know of grants or scholarships, or maybe you'll be talking to someone who's like doing the hiring or the selection for a grant or scholarship, and then that person will be the person that leads to the money. So that's how I've been able to like use networking to access these really like hidden sources of funding for my trips. And I'm happy to like answer questions if people have them. And yeah, and if people want more, because I know if people want to ask me specific questions too, they're welcome to email me at anita@anitawingley.com, or check out my website, anitawingley.com, and just fill in the contact form there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anita, for sharing all of that. There's so many nuggets of wisdom there. So we're going to answer questions as they come in, but until then, I was really interested in just asking you guys a few questions and seeing what your answers are. So I am personally always get stuck on the value proposition that I want to bring. I know I've heard from a lot of change makers, oh, but I don't have anything to offer. Like, no, you have so much to offer, you just don't even realize it. So what kind of value do you think, in terms of work or in terms of branding or promotion, what do you think can change makers offer different companies?
I'll start off with some ideas. I think it's very similar to what like Ashley said before. It's like you've got to decide to change your mindset. Like instead of telling yourself like, oh, I have nothing to offer, I have nothing to offer, decide that you have something to offer, and then we can brainstorm from there. And like I'll just even use like personal examples because sometimes I'm like what would be creative ways for me to engage companies, or if there's someone that I really want to work with, because I blog a lot and I write to Huffington Post, and it's like for example, like I personally haven't approached a company about writing a series of blogs using their name or that kind of stuff. But it's like even that's something that I haven't even done. But once I started the gears, going, and I started thinking like, okay, what could I actually offer? There are things, and like I'll tell you, it's not that hard to get on Huffington Post. So there's an idea right there. And and there's tons of other blogs, but it's about like using your gifts, because like if you don't like to write, and writing is really not your thing, and I tell you to do that, that's not going to be something that you enjoy. But think, like, do you like to talk to people? Like, could you do talks in your community? Or do you like to like do photography or art? Like, do you have a big Instagram following? Like, this is where you've got to be creative and think about what it is that you like to do, and then how you could help other people with that. I mean, there are tons of bloggers online who partner with all kinds of companies and do really creative things. So there are tons of examples online, but I think it's really about seeing what you enjoy, and then thinking about how you can help people with that. And like, I can't even come up with like as many ideas as you're gonna come up with once you decide that, like, okay, let me jot down, like, I think a good brainstorming activity is to jot down as many ideas as you can. Like, get a blank notepad, do a mind map, be like, okay, what do I like to do, and what could I potentially do? And like, even if you think ideas are really dumb, like a garage sale, or they're really old school, but if you actually thought about it and try to think big and be like, okay, wait, well, actually, if I engage like 20 nonprofits in my community for this, fundraising drive, and I can have it like co-branded with a company that will sponsor me, like, how much could I potentially make? Well, if you actually did the legwork and had like 20 charities on board, and like 5 people from each company came and donated stuff, well, suddenly you've got a 100-person garage sale, and you could probably raise a ton of money from that. So there's an idea I just came up with on the spot, but it's an example of.
Awesome ideas. Ashley, you had a point to make there?
No, I'm just saying that it all really goes back to understanding the importance of sitting down with your team, or if it's a team, or if it's just yourself, just understanding the importance of, knowing your purpose. So before you even write your letters, before you even think about the companies or the people you want to approach, it's about understanding who you are. And I don't mean it in a Mr. Miyagi way. I just mean it you need to know who you are and what your worth is, because that's the only way a company is going to see you. I mean, a company, or people in general can read you, and you want people to know that that you have a clear message, that you understand your worth, and it helps not only with with fundraising and partnerships, but it also helps with it also helps when you want to make business deals, because people know that they can't necessarily swindle you, quote unquote. So you have to know who you are first. So it all goes back to, like Anita said, brainstorming, really pinpointing all of the things that you as a person or as an organization can bring to the table, and then you go from there.
Mm-hmm. And Michael, we actually had a direct question to you. So the question was, and you can also answer the other question as well, but this was just in your realm of expertise, how do you get over the barrier of getting a credit card?
Hey, thanks. So to answer the first question a little bit briefly, um, there are a great deal of people in the group who already have certain skills based on things they've done in clubs or as a hobby or something like that, that can definitely be used. Everything from design to writing copy to sort of doing anything online in terms of like community management and community engagement are very obvious things. But some of the less obvious things that we talked about are so much more available to everyone. So definitely happy to sort of dig into a little bit more of that if there are any more direct questions. But as far as getting over the first step of getting a credit card, the question has to be, so are you getting over the first step of getting a credit card based on sort of mental blocks you have or based on sort of more financial history blocks, right? So if it's a matter of mental blockage in terms of, okay, I've never owned a credit card before, it's now time for me to get a credit card, what does that feel like, how does that work? The most important thing is just to understand that this is not a complex financial tool. There are certain forces at work here. There's a financial institution. It allows you to borrow money for the period of about a month or so that you can then pay them back after you've received your paycheck. So the original credit cards are sort of designed for the purposes of sort of meeting you at the time that you receive your paycheck. So it's sort of the mental block there is just simply to simplify the problem. Credit cards are not a difficult, complex thing. There are only a few things to think about. The first one is, this is strictly a method of payment. You're not pulling money out of thin air. You have to pay for the things you purchase. So rule number one. The next rule is that you have to pay these things on time. Usually you would pay for a purchase immediately. Now you simply pick a date on the calendar, or the card company picks a date on the calendar at which you pay. And then the third step is to just go ahead and do it, to apply. You might not be able to get the best cards around right now if you're just starting out. So the Barclay Revel Plus card might not be for you. It's on the higher end of travel cards, but then there are plenty of other cards that are available, right? That give you a $10,000 bonus for travel. Or there's credit cards that allow you to save a little bit of money on your groceries. There's credit cards that are good if you're frequently getting gas, or if you eat out at restaurants a lot. So the biggest thing is to sort of think about where you are in your life as a sort of financially literate human being. Get a card that's going to make it very easy for you to meet the goals that the card has for itself, as well as the goals you set for yourself, and to just be very responsible, to turn on auto payments so that you pay automatically every month, so you don't have to worry about it, you don't miss it, and that when you have those auto payments on, that you have enough money in your account. Those are really the three things. Just understand it's not a complex tool, understand that you have to pay for it, and understand that it's as simple as going ahead and trying it out. If people would like to have a list of credit cards that might be good for their time in terms of where they are in their lives, I can post a link to that later. The credit card guys have some really great ideas, especially for how to earn credit card sort of credit rating early on in your life. So happy to post that later.
Very good. So we have one last question before we're going to wrap up. So the question was, what are some examples of companies that you've worked with that have gained value out of the sponsorship with you? So sponsorship is very different than just an event, but how is it that they partnered with you as a person and then was able to derive value from it?
Okay, so I can take this, I guess. Was this a direct question to someone else? I'm sorry.
Okay. This is just a general question.
Okay, so I can, I'm not going to name the company's name, but I will talk about the organization that I work with. I'm the country chair for the Bahamas for an organization called Global Dignity, an organization that realizes that everyone deserves the right to lead a dignified life. So the second year that I wanted to attend One Young World, I was doing an anti-bullying campaign, a national anti-bullying campaign in the Bahamas, and we were using Global Dignity as the platform. Every child deserves the right to go to school, and they deserve the right to an education without the fear of being bullied. I worked with I worked with one of the companies that were willing to sponsor me to attend One Young World, to host this anti-bullying campaign, and in turn, they were featured with Global Dignity as well as the One Young World website. And I think that just goes back to the whole era, the fact that we live in the era of CSR. companies invest a lot of money into their CSR budget, and so they actually, the money is there to be spent, but they want to see a return on that investment. So CSR isn't, just about, feed the children and.
Sorry, I'm just going to make a quick note. I'm just going to say CSR is corporate social responsibility, and we go over that a little bit in the PDF as well.
Oh, so sorry. Okay. Yeah. So companies invest a lot of money into their CSR budget. In some cases, just as much money as they would with their marketing to their marketing teams. So they want to see that the money that they're investing with their CSR projects, it's being put to good use. And the company that I was working, sorry, I live right next to the canal. So the money that the company that I was working with at the time, gaining sponsorship from for One Young World, they wanted to work with me in reference to global dignity because they saw my passion for it, and in turn they were passionate about it, and they saw that it was something that their company could definitely get behind. So that's just one example of of a company wanting, of a company working alongside me and one of my projects.
Anita, do you have any examples that you could share? And then I know Michael has to go, so we can say goodbye to him right now. So you can head off to Startup Grind or whatever other meeting you have.
Yeah, and just want to say thank you so much for giving us the time and the platform to speak to some of the great people in the community. I'd love for anyone that actually decides to decide there more information on it in order to actually do it. If you're committed to doing it, I will help you get done with it. Take you through the cards, I'll make it happen. All you have to do is then just promise to share it on with another person. I'd love everyone to be able to fly for free, so it's too important not to. Thank you all to everyone and to our other people that are on the call. Ashley, Anita, thanks so much. Tara, thanks for hosting. All the best, guys. Bye.
Oh my God. That's awesome. I learned more about travel hacking there. So I don't have experience with specific companies so much as my experience has been with the people, specific people in the companies. I guess that's the difference, and it can work both ways. But in my experience, I've connected with people at like nonprofits and at various organizations that it was the same thing. Like they believed in me, or they believed in me as much as I believed in myself. Like it was like I was really passionate. I was taking that initiative. I was showing up. I was like, I was hounding them for like the coffee meeting or the emails. Like I was making sure that I got their attention. And I was like, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I can do. And like I would appreciate and love your help and support with this if this is something that you believe in too. And generally, like it would be with someone that had a similar passion. Like a similar passion for like social enterprise was one thing, like businesses with a social mission, and we connected over that similar passion, and then because of that, they like, for example, one person was like, oh, there's this grant that you should apply to, and then they also introduced me to the person who was like who was doing the selection for the grant, and then I got the grant, and then like that trip was paid for. But it was through that person first. So in my books, it's always about, like in my personal experience, it's always been like I've developed those relationships first, and then kind of like the organization follows after that. But I want to hear what Ashley has something to add to.
No, I just wanted to make a point past this specific thing in reference to partnerships with companies. I couldn't let this call end without saying this. A lot of people make the grave mistake of thinking that they have to ask one company or one person for the entire thing. I don't know if this point was made already, or was it? Okay, so if you're, I'm gonna draw on a trip that I had to make like maybe 2 years back. The ticket was like $1,000, but I needed a visa, which was about $200. There were other things like materials that needed to be bought as well, and so you don't have to ask for the entire thing. If your trip comes up to about $5,000, You don't necessarily have to go to one person or one company and say I need $5,000, because think about $5,000 is a lot for one person. Doesn't matter what company you go to. That's $5,000 taken out of their CSR budget. Think about everybody else. You could think about every other project that they would probably like to sponsor in that year. So it goes back to knowing what the product is for which specific company it is that you're going to. So if it's a clothing company and you're going on an expedition, you're going to say, instead of asking for money, you're going to say, well, can you give me materials? If you're trying to get a plane ticket, you probably go to a travel agency, or even ask someone who works at an airline. You say, can you help me get these air miles? You have to think about literally everything from selling cookies to, every little thing, because like Anita says, you have to be, if this is something that you're going through the trouble to raise funds for, to fundraise for, clearly you need to do everything legally possible to get to where it is that you want to go. So you don't have to ask every company for the entire thing. Just know that even if you ask 10 companies for $100, all of that adds up. So don't necessarily think that, I need this money and I need it from you and I know you have it, give it to me. That's that's not how it's gonna work most of the time. So I just wanted everyone to I just wanted to make that point. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'll add in one sort of final tip that like Ashley's comment sparked for me. See this as a journey. Like I think like if you've never gone out and networked or asked people for money before, and it might seem really daunting, and you might be feeling like forget it, I just won't go. It's too much work, because we're talking about like hustle. Like there's some like effort that you have to put in, and it's consistent effort too, because not everyone's going to say yes. But see it as part of the learning journey. Like, you're going to grow so much when you travel and when you get to go at this event, but it doesn't start when you get on the flight. It's starting right now, when you're like, okay, I'm going to push myself a little bit outside my comfort zone. I'm going to figure out who I am, what my purpose is, what I could offer companies, and just write it up, and then see who I could email it to, or see who I could talk to about it. And know that, like, even in the process, like I'm sure Ashley can vouch for this, but even in the process of seeking sponsorship, of building your network, of putting yourself out there so you can have that money, you are going to grow so much. Like, you're going to expand your network, you're going to learn how to pitch, you're going to learn, you're going to learn how crowdfunding works if you want to do that. So see it as all part of this like growth process and the journey that's going to come from even just attending this event. Like, see all of this as like, this is part of like the growth that you get to get. And like, what a better way to grow than like to get to travel, to get to have other people pay for your trip, and to build your network and to develop all kinds of skills in the process. So perseverance is a big thing, but just like enjoy it.
I completely agree. Thank you, both of you, for all of your nuggets of wisdom. I am so excited about this. I'm just going to wrap up with a few things that I know from my personal experience with sponsorship, and also just wrapping up in general. So one, factor in your rate of success. So although you're going to be networking and you're going to get to know people on an intimate basis, as Anita said, which I very, very highly recommend that you do, get warm leads, all of that, factor in the rate of success that you won't always get it all at once. So you have to rate in about 1 out of 10 will say yes, or 1 out of 20 if you're doing cold calls. Then you don't always have to ask for all of it at once. I really do highly recommend asking in $100, $250, or $500 increments. If you are attending Changemaker Summit and you want to say that I can brand you at Changemaker Summit, it has to be in $500 increments, because then we can put them as a bronze level sponsor. So that means that they will have branding throughout the entire event, and they will also get access to other branding opportunities that only sponsors get access to. So that's what I'm going to say. Please buy your tickets for Changemaker Summit if you haven't already. We are selling them, and we are just making moves, making partnerships. So next month we're going to have another video like this, only we're going to be going over corporate sponsorships with your business. So this is for travel. Next month is for funding your business. That's usually where I come in and where my expertise is. So I am so excited for all of this amazing, amazing wisdom. Thank you so much, you two, and for Michael as well. I hope everyone can get something out of this and start applying it today. There's also a checklist in the PDF, so you can check it off. I really recommend printing it and then just see as you go and create your. I didn't put down an email template because I know people are going to be creating different things. They can create PDFs, as what Anita said, or you can create an email template of your own. I really highly recommend doing that and going out and creating the life that you love, and be fearless. As Anita told me right before this, she told me, you have to be fearless. Don't be afraid to ask, because the worst possible scenario is that they say no. So why wouldn't you ask? So thank you so much for watching this, and we're all going to head out now. So
so much for organizing this, Tara. It's been such a joy and pleasure, and I'm always happy to share.
Thank you, you too. Have a great day for everyone watching this, and I hope this has helped you in some way. Bye.